So now we will go into we'll save the AFC West for last. I know I was trying to go in the same order of divisions like with the NFC, but I think we'll save the AFC West last, and we'll go to the AFC South. So we kind of did touch upon it on your podcast a little bit. I think right now the clear cut favorite, at least for me, is the Texans. I think the Texans right now have the best overall roster. CJ Stroud kind of had that sophomore slump. And now receiving core is going to look a little bit different. You know, Stephon Diggs got hurt. Tank Dell got hurt. Now Diggs is with the Patriots. Tank Dell might not be back at all this year. They drafted a couple of Ohio State Cyclones to pair up with Nico Collins. And Nico Collins, another underrated player. I mean, when he first got drafted, I mean, he was really a no-name when he was in the NFL. And then all of a sudden you get C.J. Stroud, and now he's a household name. I mean, he's turned into a pretty good receiver in the NFL. They also made an interesting move with bringing in Nick Chubb, so now you pair him up with Joe Mixon. Curious to see how that all works out. Joe Mixon actually had a pretty good year when he was on the field last year for the Texans. That was kind of a team that needed a little bit of a jolt at the running back position. Mixon was pretty good. We'll see how he does this year. I didn't really like them trading Laramie Tunsil because the Texans had an offensive line problem, and then you traded your best offensive lineman to the Commanders. So, and CJ Stroud got sacked a lot. I mean, you go look back at the the Chiefs game in the playoffs. That was a close game, but that defense really got after Stroud there. So, I mean, I'm hoping for a better year out of Stroud in that offense, and then the defense is pretty good. We got the two edge rushers, Daniil Hunter and Will Anderson, and then you got top corner and Derek Stingley Jr. This is a good, solid team. D'Amico Ryans and that regime, they've done a really great job at turning this team around. I mean, the Browns kind of helped accelerate that with the Texans trading Deshaun Watson to them, but the Texans they've really turned it around. They've become a kind of a staple in these playoffs the last couple years. They did win the playoff game. The last 2 years they beat the Browns the first round the previous year, and then they beat the Chargers last year. So we'll see what happens this year. But right now, I'd probably say they're still at number one. And then the 2 and 3 spots are interesting. Like with the Colts, I like their pieces on offense. They got a trio of young wide receivers. You gave Michael Pittman an extension. I like what I saw at times from Josh Downs last year. You still got Jonathan Taylor, who's one of the top backs in the league. And then defensively, they made some improvements with the secondary. They brought in Charvarius Ward over from the Niners, Cam Bynum over from the Vikings. So they did make improvements there. I think this is another regime that it's a big year for them. They need to succeed. Otherwise, I think they might be gone. Shane Steichen and Chris Ballard. I mean, this team has to, this team's got to do something. But I think, again, this is another one of those teams that's going to come down to the quarterback play. Anthony Richardson didn't really play that much his rookie season, got hurt last year. I mean, it's just the guy could chuck the ball down the field. It looks so pretty. A 60-yard pass downfield, to Alec Pierce. Alec Pierce had some explosive plays last year. But then the little things, he throws these bad interceptions in the red zone. And then he ended up getting benched. They put in Joe Flacco, and then he got reinserted in. And I thought at times he looked a little bit better, but still, it hasn't worked out so far with Anthony Richardson. And now he's kind of got, to be honest, he's kind of got some pressure on him because now they bring in, and it's weird to say this, but now you bring in Daniel Jones, and if Anthony Richardson doesn't play well, I mean, they're probably going to go to Daniel Jones, and he's going to get his shot to show that he's still got something. With the Colts picking him up, so I don't know. I mean, the Colts I still think are going to be kind of the team that they hover around 500. They are in that like 7-8 win range for me right now. So we'll see what happens there. The Jaguars, we talked about it with the Travis Hunter episode. I mean, this is a big year for Trevor Lawrence. Now you're another year into that big contract that you got. They drafted Travis Hunter. You bring over Liam Cohen from Tampa. He's an offensive guy. I was disappointed with how Travis Etienne performed last year. I wonder if he's a trade candidate. Maybe he gets moved. The defense was not good. The team just overall was not good. I mean, I think back to that game against the Bills early on in the year on that Monday night, and they got obliterated. And that kind of showed you what that team was going to look like. But, and then Trevor Lawrence ended up getting hurt, and we saw Mac Jones a little bit. So, yeah, and now with Trevor Lawrence, you're going into this year with your third head coach. I thought that things were turning around when Doug Peterson got there, they went on this second half run back in 2022. You win a playoff game. You play competitive against the Chiefs. You think they turned it around, and then 2023 they collapse. Texans win the division, and then last year they were just not good at all. The wheels just completely fell off. When honestly, like, yeah, you count the rookie year, but you also don't count it because that was just a disaster that year with Urban Meyer as the head coach there. So I don't know. The Jaguars for me, could they be better this year? Definitely. I think it's really the big thing is it all comes down to how Trevor Lawrence performs, and I do think you got some good players on that defensive line. Josh Hines Allen, I should say. They did bring over Eric Armstead from the 49ers, last year. And I know you said this, you weren't a big Trayvon Walker guy, but you have him as well, and he was a top pick, a couple years ago. So there are good players on this defense. It's just, I feel like this is going to be one of the main things that holds them back if they're not very good this year. And then you got the Tennessee Titans going in with a rookie quarterback, Cam Ward, top pick in this year's draft. You got Calvin Ridley as the number one receiver. They brought in some veterans last year to try to help out. Will Levis, obviously, Will Levis is not going to be the guy going forward. It's going to be Cam Ward. Cam Ward had a good year last year, his final collegiate season. The defense, defense is usually like okay for Tennessee, but I'm not really expecting Cam Ward to, go on a Jane Daniels type run and this team, makes the playoffs or anything. I think right now for me, I'd probably have this team ranked at the bottom. But, we'll see if Cam Ward ends up being the guy. Curious to see how he looks. But, yeah, right now, Texans at the top. Right now it's between the Jaguars and the Colts, second and third, and then you gotta put the Titans at fourth, in my opinion. But what are your thoughts on this division? Because I know you're definitely gonna have a lot to say with one guy, the guy that plays out in Jacksonville.
I'm gonna start in a weird spot. I'm gonna save that. I'm gonna go with the Colts first. The Colts, like you said, this regime is on a hot seat, and I agree. I don't know what would make them make it out of the year, though, because unlike other people that we're seeing on a hot seat, it's like, what could your realistic expectations be for a GM and coach that you have Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones? Like, are you just setting them out after this year, basically no matter what, or are you putting a number on it? Are you putting out maybe Anthony Richardson develops? I don't know. But for this Colts team, the biggest thing for me, I get it. Daniel Jones might be the better quarterback right now, but you have to start with Anthony Richardson. As much as I loved him coming into the draft, as much as I think he is horrible right now and his start has been horrible, you gotta start it with Anthony Richardson. You know what Daniel Jones is at this point. Anthony Richardson was a guy that you invested a top pick in. You have to start with Anthony Richardson, because if you don't, I don't know. Like, I feel like you're never going to know. You never gave this guy the chance that he needed. Obviously, injuries have been a huge part with him, but his play is also awful. When we look at completion percentage, he is like the worst of like all time.
Yeah, there were some games like he'd be like something. Yeah, there were some games last year where he was like 6 for 20. And like, on top of that, I didn't mention this, he also, tapped out of a game too, which is not a good look. And that kind of played a role in his benching.
That's like one of the craziest things I've ever seen. Forgot about that. But again, I think the biggest thing, I think you have to start Anthony Richardson, because like your investment in Anthony Richardson is so much more than Daniel Jones, and like you have to at least see what you got in its totality in this top pick. Again, maybe they could design the offense that relieves a little more pressure for him in the pass game. Design an offense that maybe puts him in easier throw situations, because we know the guy athletically is at the top of the league. With his size and his ability to run the ball, like, I mean, you could be 2-3 in the league and just ability to run the football. So getting him in easier throws, being more consistent. I mean, I've seen reports time and time again where people say it's up to Anthony Richardson if he's going to succeed, because he has all the tools to do it. I mean, you're looking at like Cam Newton's size with the athletic ability to run and more arm strength. So I think they got to do the due diligence and see how Anthony Richardson pans out again. And then if it's 3 or 4 games where you're seeing the same thing, maybe you want to compete, save your job, put in Daniel Jones. But again, it's going to be very interesting to see if this GM coaching staff is going to prioritize their job over the future of the franchise? I don't know, because if Daniel Jones is a better quarterback right now, these guys might want to save their job too. It's going to be interesting to see that balance. Their receiver room reminds me a lot of what we were saying about the Packers. A lot of good receivers, but nobody that really stands out as the number one guy. Michael Pittman, if you had to put somebody, he'd probably be the number one guy. But, again, not really a number one receiver in the NFL. And then you got Downs and you got Pierce. You got a bunch of guys in that room. Interesting to see if they could help Anthony Richardson improve. The defense is solid as well. Jonathan Taylor, a guy that I feel like, I mean, a lot of it is injuries, but a guy that we had a lot higher expectations than he has really delivered. And when we look at him, he had really 1 year where he was a top back. We could argue he was the best back in the league. Other than that,
Back
we haven't
when we
really
were doing color cast.
Yeah. Like, his injuries really held him back. So it's going to be interesting to see how good he is there. They drafted DJ Giddens, who I like out of Kansas State. Going to be interesting to see if he has any impact. But usually with a Jonathan Taylor room, I mean, depends on how to handle his injury history, but usually Jonathan Taylor's the back. Going to be interesting to see how the Colts pan out. I mean, the biggest thing is Anthony Richardson. I mean, I love this guy. Now I'm a non-believer. I completely switched up. I'll put my hand up and say it. I don't think he's going to be great, but it's going to be interesting to see if he can improve. Going into Houston, a team that I feel like has gotten worse over the first 2 years of CJ Stroud. The one thing I do have to say about Houston compared to any other team with a young quarterback, I feel like Houston has really put CJ Stroud in a position to succeed for the most part, and what they bring in the receiving room. He wanted Tank Dell. They got Tank Dell in the draft. Stephon Diggs, they went out and got him. Now, obviously, he's gone. This year, they used 2 pretty significant picks on two guys out of Iowa State, like you said. Like, they're really making their offense to help CJ Stroud. They bring in Joe Mixon. They bring in Nick Chubb. Like, they're doing everything they can to make their young quarterback to succeed. Now, you could argue with that offensive line piece. They're not doing that. They trade him. So I expect them to be a little worse because Tank Dell is a guy you don't really have now. Again, I don't know when he's coming back. The injury is going to hinder him. Then you have Stephon Diggs, who's not going to be back. You have the offensive line. Your best piece out of that is gone from an offensive line that wasn't even good. I expect Houston to be definitely worse. The defense is solid. I like the defense. And you said CJ Stroud gets sacked a lot. A lot of that comes on to holding the ball a lot and also not really having not really being mobile. But at the same time, I feel like CJ Stroud is a guy that has solid straight line speed. It's just, I don't know, he doesn't look to run. Very weird situation there. For Tennessee, I'll go over Tennessee really quick. Cam Ward is somebody I expect to have a similar season to Caleb Williams rookie year, which is not good. But I don't think I got to really specify this comparison. I don't think Cam Ward is nearly as good as Caleb Williams, but I do think they have a very similar play style that is not conjunctive into having a really good first year in the NFL. We've seen Cam Ward, the biggest thing, the viral thing of him being very nonchalant. But other than that, he extend plays looking the ball. He extend plays looking the pass every time, holds on to the ball for a while. So I don't think that's going to be successful in year one. This team isn't really going to be successful either. When you look at this team, the offense is kind of weird. They added some young talent. They have some aging veterans. When you look at Calvin Ridley, when you look at Pollard, their better days are behind them. If you get anything good out of them, it should be a plus. They drafted Alik Ayuman, who I like, but it was with a late pick. They added in Xavier Restrepo, who is a guy that played with Cam Ward as well. Going to be interesting to see if they get any contributors, if they get maybe a little more than we think out of Pollard or Ridley, or maybe a rookie steps up. And the defense is okay. I expect the team to definitely be at the bottom. Like I said, I just think Cam Ward is going to have a slow start in the NFL. I think when you play a slower type game in a faster NFL, it's not going to translate right away. For Jacksonville, huge Trevor Lawrence supporter. Trevor Lawrence, arguably my favorite player in the NFL. We'll get into my favorite in the next division. But for Jacksonville, Trevor Lawrence, I want to say it. We talked about it in the other episode when we were going over Travis Hunter on my channel. I think Jacksonville's going to finish atop of this division. I just do. I think Trevor Lawrence is just going to take a huge leap. And if he doesn't, this is do or die. But everything I see out of Trevor Lawrence, and I could go on and on for days with other elite quarterbacks, this guy has the talent to do it. But not only that, not only that, I feel like this is a guy that people are just saying like his career in the NFL has been a dumpster fire, which I completely disagree. You look
Yeah,
at
I
the
wouldn't go
Urban
that far. I wouldn't say it's a complete dumpster fire, but it definitely has been disappointing.
you look at the Urban Meyer year, like that's just a wash. This is his third head coach in like 4 years. I mean, cut the guy some slack. Also, when we look at a year where he was fully healthy, we looked at a stretch with 5 weeks where he was the top quarterback in the NFL statistic-wise. He made the playoffs and had a huge comeback win. He has a playoff win on his resume. Like, this is a guy that has shown in stretches that he could be a top quarterback in the NFL. Not only that, he's one of the biggest quarterbacks in the NFL. I think he's smart. His decision making has to get a little bit better. But arm talent, his athletic ability, like compared to Josh Allen, Herbert, guy Drake Mayer we talked about that we're high on, like he's in that category with them as a very similar skill set. Brian Thomas Jr., a top three in receiving yards last year. I think he's going to be in the Jefferson, Chase, TD conversation next year. Like he's that good. He could do everything. His burst, how big he is as a receiver. You add in Travis Hunter, which is again one of the most controversial picks in years. Like when we look at hyped up picks, a guy that we've seen like we've never seen before. But not only that, it's going to be interesting to see how they use him. But the talent they have in his team between those three guys, I think Trevor Lawrence is going to have a monster year. I think he has to. And I think he's set up for success at least more than he ever was with those two guys. The defense is going to be a question mark. But like you said, with the pieces on defense, I think they're a little more talented than the defense was given credit for. I think they should get a little bit of a jump. The offensive line, they did make some moves. It should be better. The running back room, very interesting to see if Etienne finally like takes a step up from what he was a couple of years ago. And again, is it going to be Bigsby? Is it going to be some running backs they drafted? They do have a couple of running backs going to be interested to see if any of them pop off. But again, I'm betting on Trevor Lawrence. I think Trevor Lawrence is still going to be an elite quarterback in this league. I think he have all the tools to do it. I think he's the most talented quarterback in this division. And like I said, I think Houston got a little worse. I'm expecting a huge jump. Not a lot of people have Jacksonville 1, but I'm going to put Jacksonville 1 because I believe in Trevor Lawrence. And again, if he doesn't take this jump, I'll probably be saying it again next year. And I have Houston 2, Indy 3, Tennessee 4.
All right. I mean, we will see. We will see. But yeah, I mean, look, like you said, won a playoff game. Well, we both said it. He won a playoff game. You know, he has done it before. He's got to stay healthy. He's got to stay healthy. And I do think now you bring in Liam Cohen. I think that could help him. That could help him having that offensive-minded guy there. Travis Hunter now pair him up with Brian Thomas Jr. It looks really good. It looks good. It looks good on paper. Now let's see it, you know, when they take the field in the fall.